Welcome to that time when I wanted to build a better NAV than NAV. Hey, I'm Eric, and it's that time of year again. So here is a story from a while back, 20 years or something back. Um, and I think this actually started with at the time Navision Financials version 1.23, 2.0, thereabout. At the point when we had the general business posting group, we had general product posting groups, and then for some, and I till this day, I think this was a mistake. We got the general business VAT groups and the general business general product VAT group, like a mirror of that. And to this date, I have never seen a customer that needed their sales, purchase, posting separate in a different structure. Their VAT stuff separated in a different structure in the GL than the sales and purchase. So it was just more fields to fill out, and Microsoft has helped a bit on this over the years, where you can default, so you get a general business posting group, and then you also get the VAT default and stuff like that. But this video is not at all about that. This video is about, I think that was the catalyst to an idea that was saying, maybe we should build a better NAV than NAV, or Navision at that point in time. And that idea stuck for way too long. And I started building because to be fair, this was just nitpicking. So probably the whole thing was building something that was better was just an excuse to build something. I like the idea with you have a system with a program language in it, and you can customize it and all that good stuff. But I wanted to take this to a whole other level. I started, and this is way back in 97 or so. I started building a Modular 2 compiler. Modular 2 was the successor to Pascal. AL is based on Pascal. Modular 2 had a lot of nice features on top of that. And then at some point, at that point in time, you still read magazines, computer magazines. That was one of the best magazine was Byte magazine, and there was this story about this weird language made by three guys in Brazil. And I went on, read the article, the language called Lua, which means moon in Portuguese. I read this article and thought, that sounds interesting. So there was not really a URL, but there was the FTP site where you can find the source code to Lua. So I thought, So I went to the FTP site, downloaded that on my whatever speed modem that was, and popped it into my Whatcom C++ compiler, and the thing just compiled the first time. There were no warnings, there were no errors, and it just ran. I was like, I've never tried that before. At that point in time, getting source code from somewhere, it was always an adventure to actually get it working, because your environment was slightly different, and even though this was C, there were tons of different, each compiler had its own version of C, and then the talk about standards were not very well defined at that point in time. Anyway, I was so impressed by Lua that I said, my Modular 2 compiler interpreter thingy would never be as good. So I dumped that, and then I started building my better than NAV platform on Lua instead. And the stuff evolved over time, but actually that's a lot of talk already. So let's jump to what's it all about. So first of all, in order to make this video viewable, we're running low res here, because anything built before Retina screens and all that good stuff, you know, a pixel was a pixel. So starting the software I'm about to start now on a modern screen is just a small thing up in the corner almost. So anyway, eventually the system was named UCore, from that simple perspective that was the and this was back in the late 90s. I needed to find a cool name for this, and you have to go all the way to 5characters.com domains to find something that was still available at the time. So I settled on ucore.com, and the product was called ucore. So let me run this, and there's the login. So the whole idea was, look at the nice background graphics and so on. That was state of the art back then. The idea was that I probably also read an article or somewhere, but I was obsessed almost with the idea of bootstrapping. One of the things that I've found annoying about NAV at the time was that it was kind of a last mile system for what you could do. So what we can do today, where we can extend a lot of stuff and we can do all sorts of things to the system, we couldn't really do that back then. It was different, but I was obsessed by the idea of writing the system in itself. So now I'm just gonna actually log into this one, and we made a lot of applications in this over the time. But today I'll focus on the better NAV than NAV. There were different versions of the executable. This one is kind of the debug one, so there's a console that tells you stuff, which clearly see that the login procedure doesn't do anything useful here. I select a company, and I get to a main menu. But before we get this far, the first thing I actually built inside the system was a development system. And to be clear, let's see where that is. That is, and you never see the windows changing where I switch, because usually I always record from a secondary monitor, but my app here only works on the primary monitor. It was written before the concept of a multi-monitor. So everything you see, the core of that is all written in C. So there's a whole library. Wow, the mouse is not very. Everything's written in C. So the first thing I wrote in the system itself was a development system. So here is the development suite, and if I go into, you can see that you tables, form, reports, layout, source code, resources, templates, and source code management at that time was, Microsoft SourceSafe. So of course that's integrated, because NAV did not have any source code integration built in. But we don't need to check it out. So here is copyright 2000 Eric Hogarth. Here is the development environment source code of the program itself. So this we see here, source code is this one, and this is Lua code, very much augmented to be more than just Lua. Draw the window, first the menu, general, tools, objects. You see all those pieces, and that's the menu we have up here. Add the bottoms and list and columns and build the UI and whatever functionality is needed. This is the source code for this one. There's a bunch more. You see, we got the forms editor, layout editor, report editor, and stuff like that. So the environment itself is built in itself. That was the bootstrapping idea, which I still kind of find very cool. So on top of this, that was the development system. The fin is of course the financial application that I'll show in a second, and then there's some generic stuff. You see, there's one called Navision, because I'll show that in a second. We did do some stuff where this worked in cooperation with Navision. Then there's something called U-Frame, which is basically a the function you would use. So in this case, this is database stuff. So there is a database built in based on DBase files, and then here are function that helps create a table based on the layout we have, and open the table, init the table, verify, modify, delete, compute, set filter, get filter. We're highly inspired, right? Not copied, but inspired. Validate, captions, whatever. So you could do, and then in an object-oriented way, work with these. So many hours are spent building all this, but let's go see if we can go. So here's the application, one of the applications I built, and this was the idea of the better NAV than the NAV. And to be clear, this is just left in a state however it was at the time when something else happened, and this never, I don't think anyone has actually seen this. You are among the first here 20 years later, apart from small demos here and there. So the idea was that and to be fair, the idea here was also inspired by at the time was a system called Coda, and in Coda you only had accounts, and you just, everything was an account in some way. So what I tried to do here was say, okay, we have, and bear in mind that a lot of this is done in Danish. I have translated some things. I was translating some of this last night, and I found some bug where something was using the wrong field. But anyway, the idea was that, okay, you would define what account type you had. That was set up. So in this case, we have like the GL, and this is primary type. So a non-primary type would more be like a dimension. You could have a direction assigned to it, to define purchase and sales and stuff like that. And shadow posting, I believe that was the idea. This is 20 years ago. Was the idea that if your thing was an item, then you would also post in the GL. In this case, the GL must balance. So in Navision, we have the consistency check thing. So you would define your account types, and there was also a, see if we go and grab this one, place on main menu. If it's a primary type, it will show up in the main menu. So the main menu we saw was here is built on is dynamically built. So for each account type, you would then define what functions you would need. So when I click on the GL, I could go in and check my chart of account. That's Danish. Looks like stuff is happening. You could do filtering on dates and months and so on. So very much like, I guess this is more like a character-based NAV view. Of course, you could. Budget doesn't work yet. You could go in and create a journal and post stuff. You could where were we? Yeah, define the chart of account. You have customers, grouping, because everything is an account, so it doesn't really matter what is what here. I guess if you are on, let's see if that works. So I have no idea. Collate your entries. We do posted company account type. Much of this is way more finished than I would assume here. A lot of this is completely rip off. Accounting periods, currency posting types. Those are just for the inventory. Numbers, number series. Again, connected to company, account type, and document type. And you also specify, I guess it's on the documents. You specify what kind of documents you want. I have not renamed this. So invoice, journal, credit memo, and inventory journal, I guess. Tooltip was not something that allow VAT, auto print documents or server, inverse posting if you want to. So surprisingly, a lot of stuff. So another thing that was part of all this was, you can see there's something called local documents and server documents, and the idea here was still, because we were living in the latter days of dial-up modems and stuff like that. So the idea was that you could actually be offline, and so you could be offline and create documents and so on, and then when you connect it to the server, it will be sent to the server and posted to the server. Let's see if we can create an invoice. So we select a customer. We got transfer. If I type T in a date field, I get today. This is probably me. Currency code we don't care about. Let me sell an item. There's a lunchbox. 45 lunchboxes. Looks fine. Post document on server. So I guess if we get this thing, there's some debug stuff coming up, of course, here. But if I go and say post document, so I can save it in local documents if I'm disconnected. Then I can say post document on server. Say post document on server, yes. And then you see the server, which is basically what is running in the console, is saying, hang on, we got a client online and we do fin server post on a document. And that's kind of how that works. As I said, this thing never got into any shape where it was remotely ready to do anything. So let me just shut this down and run it again. We had one application that actually made a fair amount of customers at some point, and that was a point of sale system. And it was actually never known as Ucore. It was known as Velocipus, right after Jurassic Park and all that good stuff. And this was also written here, and we can see that it's a point of sale system, a fairly advanced point of sale system for that point in time. Items, customer prices, mix and match discount systems, payment integration with payment terminals and stuff like that. Direct link to Navision, so you can send transactions over to Navision. This one also benefited from the whole offline thing where you could have the system offline. The store could be offline from Navision, but the cash register could also be offline from the server in the store. So no matter what, you could always do receipts. And again, we have the same thing here. That let's go to forms and open the POS back office. And I need to remember how to use this. The back office menu. If I go back to the form, and then we can see that let's make this slightly bit wider. So here's what's in the menu. There's timer. This one doesn't use any databases, tables. On load, on before display, on display, there's some code running. On close, there's some other thing running. Actually, I can't remember if there's also reports in this one. Wow, sometimes the mouse gets laggy on this one. So POS sales stat. Oops, it's because we still have a form open. The layout thing is shared. I forgot that. So there's a head, body section, and I think we can say on the body we say edit layout, and then I'm not sure why the mouse gets so funky here. Not that much layout. A lot of stuff. Templates, I think you could use the templates to add in, even though I can't remember how that worked. You could select a template and add that to the system. The idea was, let me actually show this. I think one of the things that let's take here the POS customer load table. One of the things that was kind of annoying from my perspective was that a field in and this, it's still that way today, that if you add a field to the table, you also have to add it to pages. There isn't a way to say that this page are all the fields from this table that are a certain have certain properties, auto layout, which we added here. So this one's saying, but the name field, it's part of browsing, it's part of editing, it's part of printing, and so, stuff like that. We have on validate. So we added, for some reason I implemented the search field. On assist edit, on compute. On compute is kind of a replacement for not replacement, but like an alternative to some fields and stuff like that. If something was a tab break, then it would render differently as a new section, I think. Or we can actually try that. I think if we go in and say address 1 is a tab break, let's try to do that. Save. Something is very weird here. Save. I can say run to the table, and then we modify, and you see now it's the address 1 field starts on the next tab. I'll change that back before I forget, and another 20 years go by. Eventually, UCore got overtaken by reality in lots of ways. The point of sale system had some success, and we had some other small apps that were built with this. Looking back at it, I learned a lot. You can see that this have kind of touched all aspects of building an application environment, and some of these things have even made their way into Simple Object Designer and other things, because there's some ideas that are great, but eventually this was kind of forgotten and was just sitting in a corner somewhere and collecting dust. So I guess the holiday spirit, the morale of this story is that I failed in creating something that was a better NAV than NAV. No, NAV was actually pretty good. Apart from that thing with the VAT business posting groups, that still annoys me. But I think the other morale here is that, if you want to build something, build it. In this case, I wrote a tremendous amount of C code to run all this. I looked at 2 random functions this morning, and both of them were clearly, could have memory leaks and stuff like that. But that was still something that wasn't really you didn't spend that much time on at the point in time. Could easily be fixed, but I'll just let the code be the way it is. One thing that is actually surprises me, you can see here that I managed to compile the whole thing with the newest version of Visual Studio, and needed a couple of preprocessor defines, but other than that, everything compiled, everything works, at least as well as it did 20 years ago, which I kind of think is pretty cool. That people often make fun of Windows and saying, oh, but some of this is old and not consistent. But the amount of effort Microsoft actually put into making sure that old code will still run is pretty amazing, and old code will run. Anyway, that was that's a story from my past. Keep dreaming. there's always, and if you have a good idea, gonna start writing some code. Maybe you hit something. I, at least from this, learned a lot about a lot of things, and I wouldn't have been without the experience. So thank you for watching, and if you do need some actual AL hacking, it's probably this video you're gonna watch, because it's a good one. I'll see you there. Take care. Bye.